You're up.
Well, welcome to the Friday edition of Richardson Plano Networkers, everybody. Today, our guest speaker is Jay Holman, and he will talk about money for the many. Money for the many. There's a song that goes something like that. As business owners and entrepreneurs, understanding money fundamentals is something we can all benefit from and need. The purpose of today's training is to review confusing financial concepts and clarify them without financial jargon. Attendees today will gain insight into how money moves, how money grows, and the 5 pillars to build and grow wealth, the rule of 72, compounding interest mortgage or a simple interest mortgage, the differences between the two, the power of time and the impact of taxes. Jay Holman is a collaborative serial entrepreneur, speaker, knowledge broker, and a global connector who helps build communities, organizations, and businesses that help impact people on a global level. He lives in Victoria, British Columbia, and connects people to trusted advisors and experts from all walks of life. Please join me in welcoming our guest today, Jay Holman.
Ooh, muted claps. I love it. I can feel the energy. That's perfect. Thanks so much, Randy. I really appreciate that introduction. I'm humbled, I'm honored that David asked me to come speak to you. And really, I want to be able to set the stage at the beginning properly, is just so you know, my background is as a teacher and an educator for 15 years now. So what I found out at an early age is one of my gifts is taking confusing concepts and clarifying them. And then on top of that, I use a very much talk with approach versus talk at. I feel like a lot of people out there nowadays are being interesting instead of interested. So one of the things that I really have with my way of being is active listening and really valuing relationship over revenue, or mission-based versus commission-based. So what you're going to hear me say today is very much, I feel like, not taught in our school system, and a little bit of pre-COVID to COVID. So I was a music teacher and a dance teacher. And one of the things I did as a dance teacher is I teach communication and relationship skills through the art of partner dancing. I specialized in blues dancing, West Coast swing. And what ended up happening in my story was one of the jobs that I was holding was a union job. And I actually got hurt on the job because my colleague lost her footing. I took 2 to 3 times the amount of weight, pulled all my lat muscles, and I literally couldn't teach music and dance at all. So what I realized right then and there, the relevance of this story, is I had all these income streams set up and all of these faucets were open and running. And then all of a sudden that one situation happened and all of a sudden all those streams shut off. So can anyone relate? This is a little bit intimate and interactive. Kind of raise your hand or give me the wiggly fingers. There we go, perfect. So if anything, what I realized right then and there is the only thing I didn't know about money was I didn't have enough of it. And when I reached out to my friends and family, especially my family, they were all broke. So I went, oh my God. And so long story short, I lived off my credit card for about 4 months. I racked up a huge debt at 20% interest, kept making minimum payments. And what I realized was, holy cow, I'm basically paying 500, well, actually I realized with the help of a money coach, thank God, the idea, I was paying $543 a month, all interest, no principal. And with his help and his brokerage firm, he connected me to a debt specialist. I learned about something called a consumer proposal, which, I mean, show of hands, who knows what a consumer proposal is on here? Exactly. And so a lot of people think bankruptcy, but they've never heard of this other strategy. So what I realized right then and there with his help was that I could be paying $250 a month, all principal, no interest. And that really hit home. And then I saw what all these strategies were doing for families, and most families didn't know about them. So as a teacher and an educator, I went, you know what? I need to pivot, like most of you realized too with COVID, is the whole idea of I need to take my strengths of taking confusing concepts and clarifying them for people to simple, like I like to say 7th grade level, or even in some situations, kindergarten clear, right? Like let's demystify financial language and let's give back to what we should have learned in our school systems, but we didn't, right? So, and I believe that was deliberate, not by accident. Kind of show of hands if you kind of feel the same. Cool. So the other thing is I want to start my talk with a story. Now, some of you might have heard this story about the turkey or the ham. Now, bear with me. There's a method to my madness. I don't preset agenda. I literally go with flow and have natural downloading going on. So bear with me and enjoy the story. So there's this lady and she's working her, working at home, working in the kitchen, say it's Thanksgiving, right? And she's about to put a turkey into the oven. Now, before she does it, she thinks, oh, wait, I remember I have to trim the ends off the end of this turkey. So she makes the trims just before she goes to cut the ends. She goes, why the heck am I doing this? So she calls up her mom. She says, Mom, I'm just about to put the turkey in the oven like we always do, and I'm about to trim the ends. But then I got to thinking, why do we trim the ends? Does it make it taste better? Does it make it cook faster? And the mom went, you know what, dear? I don't know. Let's call Grandma. So they called up Grandma. Same thing. Well, we're about to do this, da-da-da, daughter's doing this. Why is this, Grandma? Does it make it taste better? Does it make it cook faster? Now, do some of you know the end of the story? You're recognizing it? Ah, some nodded heads, nice. The whole idea, Grandma says, you know what, dear? Back then, the pan was too small. So I tell you this story for a reason, is I feel like in today's age, there's so much information, so much noise out there, what I call on the world's bathroom wall, right? People can have a Buddha quote and a landing page, and now they're a self-proclaimed coach. And most people won't do their own due diligence and get empowered and have their own journey of self-education into something that's maybe out of their comfort zone, right? And I'm sure you guys would all agree with me, if we don't stretch our comfort zone, right, we're not exercising our personal growth muscles, aka real life learning skills, and they'll atrophy, right? So my purpose, my intention is to come on this call and really shed some light on some of our blind spots that we don't know. And I guarantee you something that I say today is going to be very valuable. And I recommend grabbing a pen and paper, absolutely, because we retain things mostly through the doing of it, right? Remember I said at the beginning, I don't want to talk at you, I want to talk with you. And I didn't prompt David for this, but I'm going to ask him if he wants to volunteer. David, the way that I usually do this, especially with COVID, I created a curriculum for kids and families to share financial literacy. And so, David, what I'd like you to do is role play with me, and you just interact when I'm asking you various questions, because it kind of feels a little weird just talking to a lens and almost a wall with you guys all muted. So, David, do you mind playing with me?
Sure.
All right,
No,
cool.
I don't mind.
Awesome. See, I love it. And so the idea of this is when my money coach asked me, and I'm going to ask you guys, and I'll ask you to ask yourself, is when is the last time the bank or an institution called you up and said, hey, your money's not making that much money. We need you to come in and take a workshop so we can change that. Show of hands if that ever happened to you.
Never.
Me neither, right? So that is one of the reasons why I just got really fired up about this financial literacy crusade and just sharing the information. And that's all it is. I want to be real clear. I'm not an expert. Yes, I'm a connector of people. Yes, I know several different experts in different walks of life, but I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy who loves helping people help people. And I learned some things very, very simply that I love paying it forward. So that's really why David brought me on here, is to share my story, share the concepts, and hope that it empowers the community to be leaving people better than they found them. Because that's really what I love doing. I love people leaving people better than I found them. Okay, so David, let's play.
Okay.
If anything, I'm going to share my screen because I want to show you what I'm showing the families. And just so you know, lately we're working on, like pre-COVID, I was set to do 4 or 5 different contracts with schools. Well, that shut off. So now, if anything, we're getting connected to homeschooling networks, different family movements. We have kids on the autism spectrum. And then lately, what was the other one? Slipped my mind. No worries. So I'm going to share my screen. And the point of that story was the idea of I'm going to show you what we showed them in an interactive approach. So I'm going to share screen to a whiteboard. And I want you guys, oh, you might have to give me the power. Nope, I'm good. All right. And hopefully you got your pen and paper. And like I said before, I'm going to show you this on a very 7th grade level because I believe it should be that simple. And I believe that if we knew better, we'd do better, or at least have the power to choose better. So what I'm showing families, David, here is basically how money moves, like Randy said. So we have to understand how money moves first. So say we work our average paycheck, you know, it can be varied depending on what we do, 20 to 60-hour work week. We get that paycheck and we go and we deposit it into an institution. Now, for simplicity purposes, I'm just going to call it a bank. Is that okay, David?
Sure.
Okay. So we deposit it into the bank. Now, my question to you, David, is what happens when we deposit that money into the bank? What does the bank do? Where does it go from there?
The bank uses it and they invest in their own vehicles and such so that hopefully they can then help it grow.
And is it fair enough to kind of summarize that by just saying they lend it out?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because I can't write all that in that amount of time, but I love the points. So let's just say they lend. Okay, so now essentially, and this is where we're finding Canadian families or North American families are falling shy with this, is they don't understand that essentially what happens when we give the bank permission to utilize our money on their behalf. So we're giving them permission to utilize our money on their behalf. And what they do is they go and they utilize in the industry what we call high net worth professional money managers. And by the way, everyone, I was really taking note of who's on this call, and I'm super excited for all the different people that are in the industry, in the financial industry, to see what they know and what they don't know in terms of their gaps. Because I can tell you, I've shown this to people with like business degrees or they work in banks and anything like that. And it just surprises me how many people don't know this or have seen this. So if anything, these high net worth professional money managers, they go and they generate what we call a high rate of return. Now, David, are you familiar with that term?
Yes.
Great. So the other thing that can come up is, and you might be thinking in your heads is, oh, well, I have a person, right? I have a guy, I have a girl. I would wager that you don't have this person, and here's why. This person, like I said, high net worth, So the average North American won't have access to that because they don't have 6 figures. And this person is not a people person. This person literally studies the economy, Bachelor of Finance, right? Reads 6 newspapers a day, studies the economy. His job, or their job, is to build and grow wealth. And they do it very well. So what they do is they utilize these high rates of return, and they can get anywhere from 12 to 18%. And once they're done utilizing those returns, David, what they do is they give back to the bank, and then the bank gives us what's left. Now, unfortunately, on our side of things, it can be a very low rate of return. Any idea what that rate of return would be, David?
Right now, less than 1% probably, if it's just a savings account or whatever.
Right. So anywhere from 0.5 to 2%, depending on the vehicle for savings. Would you agree?
Right.
Okay. So if anything, that's what's happening over here and then over here. Now, like you said, so say a savings account, we'll give a couple examples, would be 1%. That's pretty generous, right? And then what about inflation? It kind of ranges around an average of, say, 3%. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's probably going to go up, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll say 3% on average. So if our savings account is getting 1% and inflation is 3%, is our money making money?
Nope. Money's
No, it's actually losing its purchasing power, isn't it?
Right.
Right. Or what about, and you guys definitely have to educate me on what happens more in the States, but what's a GIC go for? And maybe one of the experts on the call can tell me that. Any idea? Is it safe to say, and I'm totally guessing, 2.5%?
So this is a guaranteed, like a CD or something like that, certificate of deposit or that kind of thing. Is that what we're asking?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So.
Well, yeah, we could even say that, CD.
Yeah, right now it's way lower than the 1%. It's 0.05, 0.01, depending on whether it's a corporation or a bank that's backing it.
Ah, okay. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. Okay, so if this is what's happening over here with our professional money managers, and this is what's happening for the average North American, then who's taking the cut? Who's taking the spread?
That would be the financial institution, I would assume.
Right. So when I met with my money coach, all he did was he said, well, basically what we do is a platform or a service. We get rid of the middle person and we connect people directly to the rate of return. Now, things that pop up, so we'll say that is a broker. So a brokerage firm can do that, right? They have high distribution power. And the thing that pops up, David, is you might be asking yourself a question, or families say this too, is, well, isn't the broker just another middle person? And here's why that is not the case. Because like a brokerage should do, they connect to well over 70 different product partners. And based on people's values and needs and their goals, they actually go and they get to shop the market. And those high net worth professional money managers build a relationship and are connected to those clients. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. So next, what we have to understand, so that's understanding how money moves through our system. Now we need to understand how it grows. So like you said before, Randy, the rule of 72. So, and we can even take a poll. Raise your hand if you know about the rule of 72 or you know even how it works. And Randy, if you can kind of get a visual and just tell me out of the, what are we at now? I can't see the attendant list. 15 participants. How many people are raising their hand? And it could be a virtual hand or
like
your physical hand.
4 or 5 people, it looks like.
4 or 5. Okay.
Hopefully the financial people know that, since
Oh, actually, I would love to know that. Be honest and tell me if you have heard or not even heard, if you know how the rule of 72 works and you could explain it to someone. Can you teach it? Hands probably went down. Okay.
yeah, pretty simple.
So how it works is, I want to be clear, it wasn't invented by Albert Einstein. However, he was quoted saying that compounding interest is the 8th wonder of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So how it works is, it works like this. You take whatever your rate of return is and you divide it into 72. So 72 divided by 1 is, David?
72.
Beautiful. This is what we're teaching kids. 72 divided by 10.
7.2.
Beautiful. And 72 divided by 20.
That would be 3.6 or 5.5 or 6.5, yeah. No, 5.5.
So let's just round it off and say 3.6. But I love it. Keen student. Okay, so the rule of 72 dictates that every single 70, like every 72 divided by 1, 72 years, and then you said 7.2 years and 3.6, correct? Right. So then the question is, would you rather have your money doubling on itself every 72 years or every 7 years?
7.
Right. And if you had a way to actually have it double every 3.6 years, you would choose that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go back over here. So you're telling me that a savings account is 1%. You're telling me that the GIC, thank you, Mary, 0.05. So the question is your money making money? So is the rule of 72 working for you or against you?
No, it's just,
in these scenarios?
yeah, plotting the time which your money will just go away.
Correct. So what is an example of 10%? What can get 10% rate of return out there?
Bitcoin.
Real estate.
Okay. Real estate? Is that what I heard?
Yes, if you invest in the right real estate, you can get more than 10%. We've
Right.
got 12 on one of our
Hey,
deals.
and what about the professional money managers? High net worth professional money managers being the key, right? Now, what about this one? And this one's a little bit trickier. 20%.
Still cryptos.
Okay. What about a credit card? Well, yeah, right? I'm sure in the States somewhere, 19.99 is quite common. I've even seen with bankruptcy, I've seen friends of mine say, oh my God, my credit card's like 35%.
Right.
Right? So not uncommon. So let's take that into kind of a real life example, if you will. So in Canada, we have a store called The Brick. Do you guys have that in the States? Okay, so it's basically just a furniture store. So what is a furniture store in the States?
Rooms to go.
Rows to go.
Rooms to go.
Rooms, got it. Okay, so rooms to go. So a family goes out and they buy a $5,000 furniture set. Or we'll say you, David. So you go out, you buy a $5,000 furniture set, sectional. And you go out and they say, we'll make minimum payments for a couple of years or no financing, whatever it is, no problem, right? Well, things come up, emergencies come up, family, friends, pets, anything like that. And all of a sudden, 3.6 years, say 4 years go by like that. Well, guess what happens to the debt?
Oh,
Rule of
twice.
70 works against you and it doubles, correct? And then what about another 4 years? And I'm sure somebody has been on this call and this situation has happened, right? Something came up, the money needed to be spent elsewhere, and before we knew it, all of a sudden 8 years could pass, right? And this is what was happening with my story about my debt with the credit card is I had 20% interest and 55 grand, right? So luckily with the consumer proposal, it got chopped to 15 grand, spread out over 5 years, 250 bucks. So that's the gist on that. Now, if any of you want to take a screenshot or a picture with your camera, I highly recommend it. If you share it with your kids, you will be a hero because you're setting them up for some serious wins in their life. Now, maybe a show of hands, kind of check the pulse. Like, is anyone blown away by this information? Is it new? Let me see here. I need to put on the Brady Bunch view. Select. Huh, I can't go to Brady Bunch view. Oh, wait, if I stop sharing. Ah, there you are. Perfect. All right, cool. Oh, what? Why are cameras off? Come on, get back on camera. Show your enthusiasm. So can we get a wave of fingers, something like that? Like, oh my God, I learned something new. Okay, cool, perfect. Okay, and then let me just go into my screen share again. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So if anything, let me go back into this. Where is it? There we go. Okay. So let's just use one more quick example so you guys can kind of see how this works. So if all of a sudden, say you're 29 years old, David, and grandma gave you 10 grand and said, go invest for your future. Do whatever you want to do, but invest for your future, David. And you go, oh, thanks, Grams. I'm going to go and I'm going to get some type of investment or savings vehicle, and it's going to be 4%. Well, you now know, using the rule of 72, that your money is going to double every 18 years. Do you not? And what I love about this, everyone, is a child can literally do the math even on their phone, right? So it's totally tangible for many, many people. And so if anything, 10,000, well, using the rule, the money's going to double every 18 years. So we have 10, we have 20, we have 40. Not bad. By age 65, we got 40 grand. Money's doubling on itself. That's better than, you know, simple interest, right? $1 here and there. So the money doubles on itself. Now let's see what the wealthy tend to use as a strategy. They go and they use the high net worth professional money manager, because there's more than one of them, and they end up generating a 12% rate of return. Are you with me, David? Cool. Oh, you're muted again. Okay. So same scenario, 29. Well, now with the rule of 72 at 12% rate of return, now it's doubling every 6 years. So by age 65, We have 640,000. Now, my question to you, David, is do you think the bank has any issues around giving you your 40 grand back?
Nope.
No, because they just made 600,000. Plus, remember I said at the beginning, when we sign on that dotted line, we're giving the bank permission to utilize our money on their behalf. So fractional lending, it's called. And I believe last time I looked, it can be lent out at 20 to 1. So for every dollar, they can lend out 20. Does that surprise you at all? Oh, we got a lot of heads. Okay, great. So if anything, I can't remember who said this famous quote, the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. Right? So if anything, I don't do this to depress you or disempower you. I do this as a disturbing way to say, you know what? If we wake up to the power of financial literacy and some simple concepts like the rule of 72, that could be taught. You guys could walk out of here and go teach anybody in your network in 30 seconds how it works, right? So to me, that is powerful. All right. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
So why didn't they teach us that when I was 29?
Why do you think that is, Randy? That's a great question.
Knowledge is power, and who wants the power, right? I mean,
100%. You know, and it's another thing too, and I think I asked David this, is how many hours do you think a doctor goes and studies nutrition during their doctorate of, say, 7 to 10 year journey? Randy goes 0, right? You can Google it. I've heard different things. I just love asking this question because it relates to the ham story, or the turkey story, it could be both, is the whole idea of finding out. You figure, I've heard, like, the biggest thing I've ever heard is 100 to 200 hours as a practicum. Well, that seems believable, right? 100, 200 hours, a massage therapist. I mean, someone who's studying their doctorate is studying much longer than a massage therapist, I would think. So 100, 200 hours? No, 2 to 3 hours as an elective. They have to elect to take the education. So now all of a sudden, knowing that little bit of information, I don't know, Google it, see if it's true. And then you know, oh my God, okay, so now next time I go see my GP or my doctor, am I going to take it with a grain of salt, what they say about my nutrition recommendations? Or, you know, do my own proactive self journey, You get where I'm going with this, right, everyone? That story and that scenario has me questioning many, many things out there because, like I said before, there's so much noise. How do you sift and sort? Who's a credible source? Who are the experts, right? And like you said before, Randy, I would even add too, it's like, where's our critical thinking skills, right? Cursive writing, gone away. Well, that to me is our self-expression and our creativity. So if you keep people small, they'll play a small game. But I can wager that a lot of you on here, you literally, I mean, come on, warrior is the whole idea of getting out of your comfort zone and plugging into your highest and best, playing a big game so you can actually create a huge impact for your communities, right? I won't assume, but I think deep down, when we shed all of fear and conditioning, it's about our mindset. And all of a sudden we start playing bigger games. So this information is set to empower families, right? Because now if you have these kind of questions that you can bring to the various institutions or your advisors, whoever, you're going to start asking some very powerful questions and you're going to get some powerful answers because you now know what 95 or 96% of your population does not know. right? Because 96% of the population knows how to work hard for money. They don't know the strategies of how to have money work hard for them. Would you agree? Right. So one of the things that I've really been passionate about and committed to for the last 3 or 4 years is teaching the cash flow quadrant. Robert Kiyosaki, I literally printed that off from my mentor. He had me print it off, put it on my fridge, and every day, and now it's on my vision board, every single day, my miracle morning, my morning formula, I'm looking at the cash flow quadrant going, how do I marry the big business ownership and the investor quadrants together? Because that to me is being on the right side of money versus so many, 95% or more of that population are on the other side of money, right? Like one of the things I didn't ask you, but I'll ask you now is, what would you rather have, time or money? More of. And Randy, go ahead and answer this.
Go ahead, Randy.
I'm not bumping you, David. I just like to involve others.
Well, I've had a lot of time, but I haven't had a lot of money. So retrospectively, the latter.
Well, that's a whole different paradigm. It's like, yes, go enjoy your golden years, as if enjoy your life now, right? So, but that's a different conversation.
It's a balance. You got to try to strike a balance, is what you really need.
Well, most people will say time, right? Because it's something so precious that we can never get back.
Right.
But interesting enough, what do most people spend their time doing?
Making money.
Trading it for money. So what if we can flip the paradigm and instead of have transactional linear income thought, what if we have multi-handed income? What if we think more like royalties, dividends, capital gains? What if we think collaborative entrepreneurship versus competitive, right? And the biggest thing, and I see this all the time, I used to really hold my friends up who are just killing it in real estate and as a doctor, and I put them up on this huge pedestal going, wow, they must be just so rich and so happy. But guess what I'm finding is whether you're a step away from bankruptcy or 300,000 a year, it's not how much you make, it's how much you get to keep at the end of the year or even the end of the day, right? Like the whole 40-40-40 plan, we work 40 years of our life, maybe 40-hour work weeks to live off of 40% of what's left. Well, if you ask me, that's kind of backwards, right? So why not plug into collaborative entrepreneurship, plug into projects, be a networker, be a connector, and be in service? Like, you guys didn't see this on my bio, but I strive to be an asset. And you might want to write this down. This is what I want to plant as a seed today. You be an asset for everyone you meet. Now that's an acronym, a spontaneous servant every time. Big, a spontaneous servant every time to all that you meet, right? I'm a big, big believer in go-giver, Bob Berg. You help enough people get what they want, you will undoubtedly get what you want eventually, right? But it's going to come through service. Relationship over revenue. Mission-based versus commission-based. And be interested versus interesting, right? So really learning to ask key questions to people and find out what kind of lens they have in the world. I mean, that really plays into mindset, your networking. I mean, this all has a reason why I'm telling you guys all of this, because you're in a networking meetup group, right? It's through our communication and our relationship skills and the quality thereof that will literally set us up for everything we want to fulfill on in life.
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that one more time?
Which part? That was a download.
The asset part.
Oh, sorry, Jennifer, you cut out. What'd you say?
The asset. The asset.
Oh, asset. A spontaneous servant every time.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can always ask David or I, one of our mentors in our business community for Be Connected, Scott Schilling. That's where I got it from, right? I'm nothing special, guys. I'm just a collector of really amazing people and then implementing that in my daily life, and makes all the difference, right? So yeah, I mean, and Scott's got a talk he just came out with on Vimeo, so we can share it. 30 minutes of just pure gold. This guy is the epitome of authenticity lighthouse of who he is and just being literally in service. So you can imagine he has tons of strategic partnerships. And that's what it's all about, right? The amount of quality connections and all that. So what I'm seeing, and I'll bring it back, is back to that 40-40-40 plan that we've been taught, or our parents have been taught, or grandparents. Doesn't matter what age, we have an old blueprint. And we have to consciously choose to say, that's it. That foundation worked back then. Let's build a whole new house, right? And if you want to, that would be a nice segue, financial house. So for those of you who don't know that, there's only 5 real ways to build and grow wealth in North America, right? Your home, you guys have Roth IRA, right? Things like that. But the whole point of this is plugging into these basics and then saying, okay, how do I utilize the right people who know the right things with the right timing, and we can plug them in, right? Connections, tools, and then actual mentorship. And accountability is in there too. Yes, Randy.
You haven't talked about risk. Where does, I mean, because I think people in my age bracket, we were taught to be risk averse. So, you know, back in the day, you know, we put our money in savings account because the risk was very minimal. A lot of the things you've talked about are riskier. I won't quantify it.
Yes.
Right. So how do you factor risk into your discussion?
Yes. So that's a really good question. The thing that I go back to is always, always, always know your person in front of you, what is their world, right? So I spend a lot of time asking questions for the people in my life because I don't ever want to assume your perspective is mine. And the more I can drop into your world and truly understand what the root of things are, right? Your programming, your habits, your attitude leads to your behavior, leads to your lifestyle. So I'm really passionate about going backwards. So, you know, the financial advisors and experts on here would say there's like an investment questionnaire. Absolutely, right? And the rule of 72, that is a possibility and potential. It's not an absolute, right? You're not like plugged in and then, oh my God, I got 12% for every single year. So the key is compounding. And so it's going to be a little bit off topic, but I think it's going to tie into this. I am going to just share my screen. How many of you on the call have read the book, The Slight Edge?
I have. By Jeff Olson.
This book is unbelievable. He says it right at the beginning, the reason why anything course-wise, goal-wise, anything you've tried to obtain and haven't failed is because of the slight edge curve. This is inspired by Darren Hardy's compound effect, and this ties into the rule of 72, so I'm just going to put it out here. I read this book in a bookstore in one sitting for 6 hours. I couldn't leave, right? Yes, I could have bought the book. I was just killing time before I taught a dance workshop. But the whole point of it is things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. Now, all of you could Google the slight edge and click on images for the search and find what I found. So there's some free value and a gift, right? But this is huge. Yet again, printed it off, put it on my fridge, my vision board, or my bathroom mirror, right? But the whole idea is this. We have things that are easy to do, but then there's a direct polarity to easy not to do. And this can totally relate to money. So simple disciplines made consistently over time will lead to the 5% of success, right? And success is a progressive realization of a worthy idea, right? So on that side, we see responsibility. Hold on a sec here, where's my annotate? There we go. In value driven, right? But response able. Success leaves clues, everyone, right? Response able. So really, what does that mean? Well, what's uncomfortable early is going to become comfortable later. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of what's out in society has literally conditioned us to actually be as comfortable as possible now. But unfortunately, we become uncomfortable later. Now, this can relate to life insurance, freedom fund plan, wealth creation, anything. Right? I'll use an example of, say, I don't know. Well, this is all tied into what I love to do, which is a life wheel. So life coaches use a life wheel. So there's 8 different lanes of your life. Well, the biggest one, I believe, first is mindset. That's your #1 priority, because if your state isn't dialed in, then you go through your whole entire days just off, right? Could be law of attraction. You stub your toe, you have a bad day, who knows? But you work on this first. And then, and this is just my personal opinion, second. Because if you don't have your finances in order and you don't have money done, or you're on the right side of money, chances are your health is going to get impeded on, right? And also it can affect relationships. Right. That could even be matched with health, right? However it is for you, that's your lens. But the whole point of it is we have to reverse engineer. So if you want to change your lifestyle and all these different aspects, whatever you choose, we need to go backwards. So we look at our results, we look at the actions that cause the results. Our attitude is huge. It's one of the only 2 things we can control, our activity and our attitude. And then that leads to our philosophy. So if we don't change our philosophy, we cannot compound over time to change our lifestyle. Now, how does this relate to money? It absolutely relates to money, because the thought that I have based on my philosophies will literally steer how money comes in and out of my life. Here's the thing I've recognized, or I've been really present to. Cash flow. It has to keep flowing. You can't create a resistance with stuck energy. It blocks any type of opportunity. One of the best things, and I would write this down for everyone, the most expensive thing you could ever own in this world is a closed mind.
Right. Hey, Jay, we're going to have to wrap for the formal meeting. I'm going, if you can get back to
Tie it all up.
Yeah, we need to wrap. We need to cut a couple things, and then I'll leave the mic open. People can stay around if there's questions. But go ahead.
Definitely. So I'll go back to what Randy said just to address it. The high idea of with risk is really understanding a person's world and what they're comfortable with, and understanding why they were uncomfortable around those things. And this is actually going to tie in is, you know what? I think risk is actually summed up in mindset. Because I can tell you 4 years ago, somebody who had a account, for example, with RBC here, and now I'm with Fidelity and I'm getting 9%, whereas RBC I was getting 3 last time I looked. And we're talking like 5-10 year growth. It could be 12 to 18%. Absolutely exists. So I sit there going, well, what changed? Jay's mindset changed. I was willing to see things as an investment into myself, not an expense. And as soon as I got out of that scarcity mindset, risk wasn't a thing, man. Like I plug into early adopter unicorns and business opportunities all the time. Why do I do that? Because I'm realizing that this is all this is. Where am I running to? What am I speeding up to get to? Why not just be present and enjoy the game? And really, money to me is just an experience and a game and an access.
It's also risky to hold it. Inflation, these are, again, unprecedented times. So the inflation can hit a lot harder than people expect in a savings account.
100%. And Robert Kiyosaki said it really well, savers are losers. So if all of a sudden you save $1 million, but inflation makes it about 700 grand 20, 30 years from now, really, what was the point of saving all that money? Right? So I just look at it like you keep it flowing, cash flow, liquid assets, like success leaves clues, right? So that's the key. Anyways, guys, it was absolute pleasure sharing concepts. I would love to know your feedback. So if David can pass on my contact, because like I said, I'm taking this curriculum and really putting it into the school systems and the homeschooling networks and everything. And your feedback can help me improve it. So I absolutely am open, right? The most expensive thing we could ever own is a closed mind. So I remain open.
Great. Thanks.
Hey, Robert.
Awesome job. And so Jay, if you would, while we're kind of wrapping up here, post in the chat, put your the best email or best way they can follow up with you or give you feedback. That's totally fine. If you put it in there, we'll download the chat before we leave. So just